Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of the harvest season. My name is Al,
And I am Cody.
and we're here today to talk about cottagecore games. Woo!
Oh, woo.
This episode, we have a very exciting thing. It's not often we get an interview, but the first interview of the year this year is with the developer of 2024's The Harvest Season Game of the Year, Rusty Retirement. Jordan, the developer of Rusty Retirement, will be joining us later in the episode to talk about the game and many other things.
Yeah, we talk.
So,
we kind of talk about a couple things. The game is mentioned, though. Yeah,
it is mentioned,
it is
and
talked
some
about,
super exciting secret stuff.
which will be revealed in this episode.
So if you're here just to listen to that, you can see the time in the show notes, or you can click on the chapter in your podcast episode. But please do stay around as we talk about the news for this week. And also, Cody, what have you been up to?
I have been playing Slay the Spire. I haven't been playing it nearly as much, but I did finally beat all of the characters and beat like the end game once you and like got credits. But it doesn't really ever end, really. You just keep playing. But it's fun. Doing that, doing more PhD stuff. It's like starting to hit me now that like because I was talking to my advisor and he was like, yeah, so if you're gonna defend in or graduate in December, you have to defend in October, which means you should have your data done by July. And like I was just like, oh gosh. Like it's all coming up so fast. So yeah, it's starting to hit.
Fair enough.
And also clearly Rusty's retirement. Played
Obviously.
a hot minute of that. What about you?
Nice. I think last episode I talked about playing Legends Arceus for the second
Hmm.
time, gone through and caught most of the Pokemon. I was nearly done. I have now finished that, so that's done. I've got my full Pokemon Home decks. Got the crown on Pokemon Home for that.
Hmm.
And then I decided to go from the best Pokemon game to the worst Pokemon game. And I am now playing Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl again. So it hasn't I had a save. I had done a Professor Oak challenge.
Hmm.
So I still had that. However, I didn't keep everything, so there was a bunch of Pokemon I needed to catch and breed and stuff. But it wasn't too hard, except I now need two Pokemon lines, one of which is just a version exclusive. So I've been playing through the other game, Pearl, to
Hmm.
get that one, and I've almost got it. I'm almost there. The other one I need is Palkia. So I do need to finish Pearl till the end. So I do need to play through that game all the way to the end, and get
I'm
Palkia
I'm
and be
sorry, that
finished with
sounds awful.
that. I feel like I don't know. I didn't. I don't feel like I hated the games when I was playing them, but maybe that's rose tinted glasses. Maybe I did when I was playing it, but
Hmm.
they are not great. I do not miss random encounters in the grass. I mean, that
Hmm.
in and of itself, like I don't want that to ever come back. I know some people like it, whatever. I don't. Please don't bring it back, please.
Hmm.
um, and obviously, just the thing that annoys me most about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is the stickiness. Like if you walk next to a wall, you slow
Mm.
down. I just hate that so much because it's like, especially if you're going through a cave and it's like you happen to brush against a rock and suddenly you're going at snail's pace.
Yeah.
I really hate it. I do hate it so much. Um, and I feel like those games could have been a lot better if there'd just been like a few decisions made to make them more fun. I could have dealt with the fact that it was random encounters in the grass, right? Like I would have
Yeah.
preferred if they'd done something like Let's Go, right? Like I think Let's Go is one of my favorite games. Um,
Yep.
so if they'd done something like that, I would have been much preferred it. But I can understand why they would want to do like let's bring back the random encounters because that's what these games were fine, but it's just all the other decisions that were made, yeah, not
Yeah.
fun. So
Yeah, I think that was like why I didn't get them because if I wanted to play Diamond or Pearl, I would play it.
mhm, mhm.
First, like they didn't change enough to me to make it worth
Yeah,
it.
are we past the point now where you can just remake a game? Like get Red and Blue when
Hmm.
they were remade into Fire Red and Leaf Green. I think that needed to happen, right, to make those games fun,
Hmm.
because those games were so, like, they were obviously really complicated and difficult for what they were at the time, and they were running on like a shoe. The company nearly folded multiple times before they got those games out. And
Hmm.
so I think it makes absolute sense to redo those. I think Heart Gold and Soul Silver, whether you like those games or not, I think did a lot to those games and made them better in a lot of
Hmm.
ways. I personally really like what they did with Oras. I liked the how they did that in the 3D style.
Hmm.
And then Let's Go, I think, is one of their best. I think it's their best remake, full stop. I think it's amazing what they did with it. They took what was the original games and made it different. I really like that.
Yeah.
And even if they'd done Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl as platinum, I still feel like people would have been like, but why? Right? Because you can easily, like, a DS is not, DS games don't feel old like Game Boy games feel old.
Yeah.
And yeah, some people would prefer to play a Game Boy game than a remake of a Game Boy game. But a lot of people wouldn't. A lot of people would prefer to play a newer game. But
Yeah.
I feel like if you're looking for a 2D Pokemon game, go play a 2D Pokemon game. I don't think just remaking them as what they are makes sense
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that that's exciting enough to merit people dropping down another $60 or $50 or however much these games
Or
cost nowadays.
120 if you buy them
Yeah.
both, which obviously I would never do. You'd never
No, of
find me
course
doing
not.
that.
No. Um, yeah, so I think that it does a disservice to them to not try and improve the games with the quality of life features that the fandom clearly needs.
Mm-hmm.
Or at the minimum, like have them be like a setting you can toggle or something. So if people want to play the game on hard mode, they can.
Let's not get into the debate of hard mode. Uh, I think, yeah, I just, you can, it's not even like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl brought it up to the best or the most modern 2D games, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
graphics were better, right? In my opinion, I know lots of people didn't
Mm-hmm.
like how it looked, but that's fine. If you don't like how it looked, that's fine. But it is like more modern looking. It's cleaner graphics, etc., right?
Mm-hmm.
But everything else, it's not. It didn't have as many quality of life improvements as
Mm-hmm.
even Gen 5 did one generation later, right? Right. And so
Yeah.
what are you doing if you're not even going to improve it in that way? Right. And that's ignoring the stuff that they ignored that they had improved in Platinum, a Gen
Mm-hmm.
4 game that came out 2 years later, right? Like, if you're going to ignore all of those improvements that you have made over the years, don't bother.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah.
Hard agree.
I think I enjoyed the Professor Oak challenge because it was very different compared to other ones. Like having the Grand Underground, I think was made that more interesting. But anyway, most
Hmm.
people don't care about that sort of stuff. So yeah, I've been playing through that, and I'll get there eventually. I've taken a break today to do some shiny hunting in Scarlet and Violet.
Mm.
But once I've done this, once I've caught Palkia, the only ones I'll have left to do are, I don't have because I've been, for listeners who, or for new listeners or people who aren't aware, I lost almost all of my Pokemon saves 2 years ago
That, yeah.
on my Switch, and I've recreated most of them now. So I have the only one I didn't lose was my sword, Pokemon Sword, because that was on a different Switch because I
Mm.
was running two games at the same time, and I didn't really like having to close a game and reopen it, so I just had two Switches running the two games. So because of that, I managed to keep my sword. But other than that, I lost everything else. So all I've got left that I don't have is Let's Go Pikachu and Shield. I think I have
Mm.
everything else because I've got Scarlet and Violet. I've got Legends Arceus. I've got Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl now, and I've got Let's Go Eevee, and I've obviously got my original sword. So I think I've just got Let's Go Pikachu to do and sword. And I will probably, I think I'll probably do with Let's Go Pikachu like I'm doing with Palkia, and I'll just kind of like rush through it and get it finished, and then do the last couple of Pokemon that I need for the crown on Pokemon Home for those games. And then I think I will probably at some point, certainly not before the next Pokemon games that comes out, maybe at the end of the year or something, I will probably do a Professor Oak challenge in Shield and get that done that way and finish up that dex like that. Because though that's the only set of games on the Switch that I haven't done a Professor Oak challenge in. Because I started it for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. What a game to start that on. And then I went back and did Let's Go Pikachu, but I didn't go back and do Shield. No, I didn't go back and do Pikachu because I already had a Pikachu save, but then I'd lost it, so I did Eevee. Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, I suspect by the middle of February, I will only have one Pokemon game not finished, and that'll be Shield, and that'll be the only Pokedex I don't have finished on Home as well. So, but I'll get to that eventually. There's no rush.
So I have a question.
Yes, go for it.
Do you sleep?
Yes.
I don't believe you.
My secret is I don't work.
Oh, that worked. That's fair.
Or if you are my employer, please don't listen to this.
Yeah.
The secret is that obviously the ADHD allows me to do like a week's worth in like a day.
Yeah.
And then I spend the rest of the time feeling guilty that I'm not doing anything because my brain can't. But it then distracts itself by doing other things as well. So
that's where I am too. But that is part of working with neurodivergence.
Yeah. Woo.
So yeah, that's actually, I'm doing a conference in November, and I'm gonna try and have a symposium in that conference it's an entomology conference. I want a symposium specifically on neurodivergence and why and how to accommodate for people that work in your area or group or whatever university, accommodate for students and faculty that have neurodivergences versus like just trying to make them conform. Because that is very left hand, right hand of people. So
cool.
That's what we've been up to.
Woo! Oh wait, no, I'm not finished yet. I've been playing Harvest Moon Home Sweet Home.
He doesn't sleep, you guys. I don't believe it.
I've not been doing this very much because I've just been doing like a day or two every day, which only takes like 5 or 10 minutes. But I'm trying to play these games like some people play them, and just playing a little bit every day. And it's been so much better with the controller support. I can actually play it now.
But can you save it the right way?
The cloud save still doesn't seem to work properly in so much as it saves fine, and it seems to be saving fine, and it seems like it loads when I go on. So I'm using it on my iPad, and I play it on my iPad, and it all seems to work. And I close the app and I open it up, and it all works fine. And then I go on to my Mac and I open it up, and it says, "Oh, you've got new data. Do you want to download this?" You go, "Yes, I've got. I'll take the new data," and it shows the right thing on there, right? It says I'm at Spring 23, Year 1, and I've got this much money, blah blah blah. And then you click on it. And then you actually go into the game and you're back on Spring 1 and you have nothing. But the best thing about it is the save is completely mucked up in so much as there are no people. People don't exist in the game. There are no NPCs and there's nothing you can do. You just walk around and do nothing.
That sounds lovely, actually. That's my kind of farming.
It's an autistic's paradise.
Just give me all the tasks to do without the social interaction.
So yeah, I can still only play on my iPad, which I do want the cloud save, and that would probably I'd probably play it more if I had the cloud save. But the controller support means that I'm actually playing it. So yeah, so that's what I've been up to. I've also been thinking about the Switch 2. I don't know if you've been thinking about the Switch 2 at all.
Nope.
No, that's fine. I'm
I
excited
don't
for the Switch
play
2.
my Switch that often,
Mm,
like at all. I know that I am going to play it. I'm going to play the Zelda games eventually, right? And
mm,
then I enjoy having it for if I want to play anything. But Xbox Game Pass has all I really need right now. And
fair. Did you get a Steam Deck in the end?
no,
Oh,
no, I did not.
sad.
I am unloved. No,
Come on, Jeff.
we
Buy the Steam Deck.
Yeah, he was like still deciding if he wanted to do it or not. He actually did just get a raise.
There
So,
you go. Perfect.
yeah, maybe I'll like walk by his phone and do that whole like Steam Deck, like whisper into his phone so that his algorithm will start picking up
Or we can get your
ads for
is it your neighbor Micah? Micah
yeah.
can go in when Jeff moves in. You can get
Uh-huh.
Micah to go and talk to him. Hint. Are you listening, Micah?
I can't, does Micah have one? I can't remember. I don't know. But yeah.
You can are we confusing Micahs again?
No, my neighbor. I'm wondering if he has a Steam Deck.
I have no idea. I don't
Yeah.
think that's relevant to whether or not he can convince Jeff to buy you a Steam Deck.
Oh, true. True, true, true. Yeah, Micah, when we have like a Jeff moved in party,
Yeah.
you should be like, man, Cody really like was excited about possibly getting us
Yeah,
because Jeff does
I heard it on the podcast.
because Jeff does not listen to this.
I guessed. I guessed.
Yeah,
All right.
for
Well,
sure.
I'm excited about the Switch 2, and I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about it in the future, even though they've not really said anything yet. But all right, should we talk about the news?
Sure.
First up, we have Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. They finally told us something about this game. Woo! So,
Something.
first of all, they've announced that it's coming out on the 30th of May. So there we go. That's a thing.
hmm
They've given a bunch of information on the new features. So it has a village building thing, which is I think quite cool.
hmm
In the trailer you see them like placing buildings and stuff, and that that's cool. I quite like that
hmm
idea, because I get all the previous Rune Factory games have been like, here is an existing village, go and interact with it. Whereas this seems to be like you're building up a village from small as you do the rest of things as well, which is a
Yeah.
fun addition to it.
I got the vibe that you're like going through an area that has been like devastated and you're helping to like
Ooh,
rebuild.
maybe, yeah. Yeah. But that's cool.
hmm hmm
Because it feels like, because if the whole point of Rune Factory is it's what if farming game plus adventure,
hmm
I feel like adding in village building to that is a good logical continuation of that.
hmm Yeah, going elsewhere, spreading your farming knowledge to the
Uh,
masses.
the rest of it seemed kind of pretty similar to previous Rune Factory games, your combat and stuff like that. There maybe
hmm
seemed to be a bit more in terms of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The movement. Like you seem to be able to
Mm.
like glide on wind and stuff like that I haven't experienced in the previous games, which is a fun addition, kind of making it more kind of Breath of the Wildy, I guess.
hmm
And there's also 16 romanceables in this game. So go get your waifu or husbandu.
Husbando.
Husbandu?
I think it's Joe.
Husbando.
Yeah, never played a Rune Factory game, so I don't
Probably
have
never going
much.
to.
Probs not. But I mean, it looks the village building aspect. I really do like the idea of going through an area and like helping to rebuild and restore peace and maybe like you can set up farms and then you find someone who can farm it and then you move on and you're so it's like you are creating the farms and that kind of stuff and creating the little societies, but then you get to disappear into the ether.
Is this going to be this is going to be the third Rune Factory in a row where I go, ooh, I could, maybe I'll like this, and then I play it and go, it's not really for me, isn't it? It's gonna happen again, isn't it? Because I'm getting
Maybe
that
the
feeling.
village, maybe the village thing will be not. We'll make it change. Maybe you will enjoy.
Yeah,
We're gonna be optimistic here because you're gonna have to play it. So
no one's making me.
I am promising at this point because I make the promises in this hosting relationship.
What I didn't notice is there didn't seem to be anything about whether uh
hmm
whether the romanceables are segregated. Segregated. Oh dear. You know what I mean? Whether you
Yeah,
can
if you can only
romance
marry,
anyone or not.
yeah.
Uh, it does look like I'm not seeing anything.
What has it been in all the previous games?
I can't remember five, but before five, it was definitely only opposite gender. But I
hmm
can't remember what five did. However, obviously, that was also an issue for Story of Seasons and is no longer an issue for Story of Seasons, and it's the same company. So I would hope that they now it will allow you to romance any character, but who knows? We'll see.
We live in a society.
um, it is $60 or £42. That is pretty cheap
What?
here. I don't know
Why?
why it's cheaper here. But
Why?
I
What
don't
the
know.
heck?
Um,
Did you guys like pay a premium to like your government paid a premium so they could get it for cheaper?
the limited edition is $100 or £66 and 66 pence. What a weird.
What the heck?
Why is this such a weird number? So it's interesting. So the standard one, so this is for Switch physical,
Uh-huh.
is $59.99, £41.66, or €49.99. Right. So I would think maybe it was just auto converted if it weren't for the
hmm
fact that the euros was a sensible one as well. So that's weird. But then you go on to the limited edition one, which is $99.99, £66.66, or €83.32. What is with these numbers?
I
So
mean, is it,
confused.
do you guys have like a tax or something, like a
Yeah, but
tariff on them that would counteract?
I mean, not if so, it would be the case on every game, right?
Well, but maybe they're like doing you a solid. Like this
Well,
company is
not
like,
rounding up.
we know that you have to pay out your nose for shipping, so we're just going to make the cost
No.
cheaper. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to grasp at straws because that's a little bizarre. Seems like a typo.
If Amazon has the limited edition for 80 and the standard for 45, which I think was the
The
limited
euro
edition was more
prices.
expensive. Yeah, that was like 20 quid more for the limited edition and £3 more for the. Oh, it's very confusing. What is happening here?
There's no logic in this place.
I think these must be auto translated, like auto thing made, because I can't even find that number anywhere on any shop. So
Is
I'm
it,
just
are
going to
they
ignore
trying
it.
to say that this is the devil's game?
I'm in. All right. Anyway, there's that. You can go pre-order it now if you want to. Go buy the game if you want it, or if
hmm
you're me. Next we have Harvest Hills. Have announced that they're out now. I don't think we got previous notice of this coming out on this date because I didn't have it down as that. So they just it's out. Shadow drop. There you go.
Yep. That's the way to do
Um,
it.
trying to decide if I wanted to play this game or not. It looks nice.
hmm
It's nice graphics, but oh no, they did announce the release date. I just missed it. They announced it on Christmas Eve. Uh, I don't think this had an early access, so this is just out now.
Yeah. No, this one was one that I was interested in because of the beehives looking actually like beehives.
Oh yes, oh yes. Oh,
And
it's
I'm
cheap.
really, yeah, it's only like
It's £5.
$5.
That's wild. Okay.
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 The final question, can it be played on Mac? Nope.
Oh,
Sorry,
but
y'all.
it can on Steam Deck. I'd say
Well,
it's
I
unknown compatibility on Steam Deck, but I suspect it'll be fine on Steam Deck because it
it
has
does look
controller
really
support.
cute. Cool.
Interesting. Okay, yeah. So
Well,
if you want that game, go play it. Mika and the Witch's Mountain have announced that their non-early access release is coming on the 22nd of January. Um, what I'm a little bit confused by is that they've said that the third update is coming in the coming weeks. So this seems to be leaving early access without an update. Like they're just
mhm.
going, oh, it's not early access anymore. But this is they've been weird about this since the beginning, right? Because I still don't understand why they ever put this out in early access because it wasn't early access. They just added extra content after the fact. And now they're releasing their non-early access version before the final update.
Mhm.
Weird. Weird. What are they doing over there?
I mean, that seems pretty par for the course, given that Coral Island did a lot of the same stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like Mika and the Witch's Mountain was more complete on its early
Yeah.
access release than Coral Island was on its 1.0 release.
Yeah. That's fair.
I I don't know, weird, confused, whatever. Why they didn't go, oh, this is now out of early access with their second content update, and then because the third content update is like extra stuff that they'd want to add but wasn't originally promised. And so
Hmm.
why they didn't go, oh, the second update is the non-early access release. Okay, great, fine, done. But they didn't do that. They've gone, no, this random date a few weeks before the final update that doesn't have an actual update, that is the non-early access version.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. This is the one where they're gonna add dungeons, right?
Yes,
Yeah, because
correct.
it says into the Mont Gone.
Yep. This is
Uh,
the time, if you played the game before and you haven't played either of the content updates, this will be the time to play it because I believe this is the final update. And yeah, it has a lot of extra content.
mhm.
Whereas the previous ones, they were fun. They do look fun, but they were kind of small things. It was like, here's a mini game, here's an extra collectible. Whereas this is, yeah, here are dungeons that you can go into, much bigger.
Hmm. Yeah, cool.
Um, Galactic Getaway, they have announced that their early access comes out in March.
Sorry, I just reread my comment
Yeah.
and didn't even realize it was a pun. So I wrote, how are they getting away with this? And it's Galactic Getaway. So what I was referring to, I almost typed it out, but I wanted it to be like a secret.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
When I look at this like Kickstarter picture that they have, the little robot is clearly Eve from Wall-E
Oh, okay.
with like a headset on. And the dog looks kind of like Doug from Up. And then the spaceship in the back left looks like Stitch's spaceship from Lilo and Stitch. So they're just the getaway part of this is that they're getting away with not being sued by Disney, I think.
Right. Okay. So a couple of things. One, I don't get the spaceship one.
Okay.
It doesn't look any. Oh no, I see. I know. I see what you mean. That one. I feel like I can see what you're getting, where you're coming from, but they're
Mhm,
all
mhm.
pretty generic anyway, right? Like Eve is a pretty like generic looking robot.
Yeah, this is the we
Doug
have
is
Eve
a
at home.
Doug is a dog, right?
Uh-huh.
Like there's only so many dogs that exist in the world, right?
Mhm.
And the spaceship is a red spaceship. It doesn't even like it doesn't even have the exact same design.
And the watering can has a star on it,
Oh,
like
come
in
on.
I'm the more I look, someone in the background has buns like in Star Wars. No, I just that like the
The
picture
robot is your biggest argument. I
correct.
see why you're saying that, and I understand what you're coming from. However, it's a pretty generic looking robot shape, I think, personally.
We disagree. But no, I noticed that and I was like, "Oh wow." But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see more stuff about this game. I mean, they're fixing the creatures, the farming, the crafting, the mini games, and early access in March 2025. So,
Woo.
oh, woo.
Usagishima have announced that they have a Chinese New Year update out now with one very important thing. Would you like to mention it?
Lion dancing.
Yeah, you can give a costume to your bun to make it look like a. See, I thought these were dragons. I know it
No,
says lion,
yeah.
but I feel like
Have you ever
it's the
seen
Chinese New
lion
Year
dancing?
dragon, isn't it?
Mm-mm. Have you ever seen lion dancing?
No. Traditional,
I
not
had
traditional.
I had a woman.
Those are meant to be lions. I thought they were dragons.
Yeah, no, they're lions.
They don't look
Um,
anything like lions.
there were a couple people in my high school that were lion dancers, and so they would do um in all the like assemblies, they'd have a lion dancing part to the assembly. It was really cool.
Fascinating.
Oh, that was a big jump that I had to make. So you said this is a costume?
So there's a costume and there's a mini game.
Okay.
You maybe have to do the mini game to get the costume. I'm not sure.
Okay. Is the mini game the jumping?
Yeah, you jump over buns, some of which are in the costume.
Well, I just jumped over a plant and then lost to a mushroom, so.
Oh, okay, so it's more than buns that you jump over. Fair enough.
But that's exciting.
Yeah, if you
I haven't played
love
this
this
game in a
game,
while.
it's another update and with stuff for you to do.
And it's still cute.
Yes, if you liked the game before, you'll probably like this update.
You will
Let's be honest.
continue. The liking shall continue.
Yeah, for sure. Chilltown have announced their upcoming updates 0.9 and 1.0. They've given some details on them. It's mostly 0.9. Like right at the end of the post, they go, oh, and by the way, there'll be festivals. That's coming in 1.0. But the rest of it seems to be a 0.9.
Yep. They talk about how they have sprinting, which I thought folks might like, given that, the issue was that you had to run across the map, right? That was something folks were complaining about when they played it.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe being able to run faster will alleviate some of that. But the more important thing is that they lied to me. In that Steam page, it says that there's a nature exhibit with it that you can fill with insects, but I saw no insects. So
maybe they've just not put any in yet.
They haven't, but like you can't mention that without showing an insect or two as like an example.
I don't think they show anything in that. They don't. It's like completely
They literally
empty.
They just walk through. It's as if in Animal Crossing or Coral Island or whatever, like you just walk through the part of the museum in which the insects are supposed to be.
Yeah.
But there's nothing.
Very weird.
And I was like waiting. I'm like, where is there going to be like a butterfly that flies out? Yeah. I was really excited to see insects and then there weren't any, but that's okay. Something to look forward to.
A woo.
Oh, woo.
Fields of Mystria have announced their next update, the second major update coming in March.
Mm-hmm.
It adds a new villager, some additional dialogue and schedules for the NPCs, more unlocks in the mines, which is important. I need to get further down those mines, although I need to not play this yet. I need to not go into the cutscene. I think I need to wait for more updates. Otherwise, I'll just end up burning out before the end of it. New areas in the town, additional requests, more museum stuff, new festival. Just, everything. Oh, the farmland expansion is added. Oh, yes. Gotta get a bigger farm. Do I need a bigger farm? No, I do not.
But you can.
Sprinklers! Yes! Finally adding sprinklers and an auto petter. This is getting good. This game's getting good. It was already good. It's getting even better. They've also listed a bunch of stuff that's coming in future updates, but they say in no particular order. Just like, here are things that we're thinking about.
Mm-hmm. But the automation is the most important.
Oh, yes. Gotta love it. Also, in-game time adjustment options, which is something that always sounds like a good idea, but I'm never sure whether anybody actually uses it.
I mean, people probably use it because they want to like skip forward to a something or other, or skip back possibly if they missed a festival or something.
Yeah. All right. And finally, next, next
Uh,
we have uh
penultimate final.
just penultimate. You don't need to add on the final onto the end of that. Next, we have Web Fishing have released a plush of their main character, the cat, on Makeship. So if you want that, and it's funded, it's happening. It's definitely happening. So if you want it, go get it.
Yep. It is $29.99. And most importantly, that Al did not mention is that it is holding a salmon.
For sure.
That's the most important part.
It's very cute. I don't need it.
No. But wait, do you? What if you don't get it and then you want it later?
So Craig, my youngest, is really into Astrobot recently, right?
Okay.
Like obsessed with it. He's been playing it a couple of hours most days of the week. He is, and he's getting really good at it, right? This is his first proper game that he's played. Like he's done a couple of bits here and there, but he's not really like been playing them properly. But he's like doing most of it. There's a few times where he's like, can you help me with this bit? Because it's too difficult, but he's getting really good at it. Like it's been like 3 weeks or something. And from the start till now, he's improved so much. But he's absolutely obsessed with it so much that we just ordered the Astrobot plush. And that should be arriving the day this episode comes out. So he is very excited about that.
So if I hear a squeal from around the world of excitement.
Yeah.
Cool.
Finally, we have information on a new Animal Crossing aquarium tour, this time in the UK. We'll come back to that word in a minute. I believe they did this in Japan and a few other places. I feel like I heard about it in Canada and America maybe as well. There's a few. Anyway, it's coming to the UK as well in collaboration with Sea Life UK. Now, I say UK because it is very much a tiny, tiny portion of one part of the UK. It's like 4 different cities that are like half an hour to travel between each of them. It is like pathetically small amount. And you might go, oh, well, it's because it's Sea Life. It's a specific company. And, you know, they don't have any other place. They do. They have one in Scotland and they didn't do it there. Thank you very much.
They don't want to do that, right?
Don't call it a UK tour if it's just England. It's an England tour. It'd be like saying a US tour and it's just New York.
Yeah.
Go away.
Just New York and
it's a Europe tour. European tour. Go away with it.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed.
I guess I don't really understand like what this is. Like,
yeah.
Will there just be characters?
I think so, yeah.
Around?
I believe so. There's like activities as well. So they have like this, I think they have the stamp thing that they do in the game. So it says visitors will be able to collect character stamps, discover many interesting facts about the inhabitants of Sea Life, and meet with Tom Nook and Isabel. At the end of their visit, fans will be able to purchase Animal Crossing New Horizons merchandise. Of course they will, at the aquarium store.
What villager would have to be included in either the merchandise or the stamp thing for you to go?
Or for me to travel all the way down to, I think Manchester is the closest one, which would be I think it's a 5-hour drive for me, which is not insignificant. I know it means nothing to Americans who will drive 5 hours for dinner. I don't think there is someone. I don't really think so.
I would think so. If this was in New York or DC, which are like a 3 to 5 hour drive from where I am, if Blue Bear was in there, Blue Bear is my favorite. I just don't think. I think it would be the case. I would drive 2 hours to go to this. I think that's how far I would drive to get to this. Coincidentally, about the time it takes to leave Scotland. I would drive 2 hours to this. I don't think there's anything realistically that would make me drive 5 hours. I don't think I could do that. That's too far. That's fair.
especially considering we have an aquarium 5 minutes from us that we have a season pass to. So, so I would be paying to travel 5 hours to then pay to get into an aquarium when I have a season pass to an aquarium next to me. That doesn't feel the most sensible situation, right?
We have an aquarium at home.
Oh, we do. All right, that is the news. So next, we will be going into our interview with Jordan, the developer of Rusty's Retirement. We recorded that at a different time, so if it sounds different, that's why. Hope you enjoy the interview.
Woo!
Woo! Okay, we are now back with the developer of Rusty's Retirement, which, just to remind listeners, was the winner of the Harvest Season's Game of the Year last year. Hello, welcome to the podcast. What is your name and what are your pronouns?
Hiya, my name is Jordan, he, him. Yeah, I'm the developer of Rusty's Retirement and also a smaller, lesser known Metroidvania called Haiku the Robot, which is in the same universe as Rusty, actually. If you didn't know that, a little bit of lore for you.
I did not know that, and I do like Metroidvanias. Maybe I'll look at that at some point.
Wait, it's a Metroid Haiku as in Haiku, the helper of Rusty?
Yep.
Metroid what? Okay, continue. I have questions.
Well, good thing that you have questions because this is an interview. So I guess we'll start off with a couple of easy questions. Well, what is your history with games, just in general? What did you play when you were young? How did you get to where you are with games?
Yeah, so I think my sort of gaming journey, let's say, started when I was little, and I can't remember the age exactly, but it was when Game Boy Color came out, because that was my first console that I ever got, and I just have super fond memories of playing Pokemon Gold on the Game Boy Color. So yeah, after that, then it was just like, all the Game Boy stuff, Game Boy SP, Game Boy SP Advance, all of those ones. Nintendo Switch, DS when it came out, all that sort of stuff. And then
all
eventually I got like
Mm-hmm.
a PlayStation, I think. So I played like typical PlayStation games like GTA and stuff when I was definitely not age appropriate to play GTA, but still pretty fun times. So yeah, just sort of a mix, but it definitely started with Game Boy and Game Boy Color.
Yeah, fair enough. What was your starter in Pokemon Gold?
Oh, I think it was the crocodile looking guy.
Totodile. Yeah.
Yes, that's
good
the one.
Good one. You're in good company because we are both also Pokemon fans. I've been doing a lot of Pokemon recently.
Yeah, I even actually bought, because they did this remaster edition of like Heart Gold or something for the Gold one. Like at the time I didn't have a DS. I think it broke or I was only using my cousin's or something like that. So I literally went out and bought a DS just so I could buy Pokemon Heart Gold. And that was like the only game I had for it. That was it.
Yeah. But yeah, I was actually the same because I dropped out of Pokemon after Gen 2 and came back for Heart Gold, Soul Silver. And I didn't have a DS either, but my mum had a DS for like brain training games. And so I was
sick.
Can I use your DS, please? So I used her DS and played Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I then got my own DSi for when the black and white came out. But yeah, it was a good time to jump back in, I think.
I think everyone had that like break period where they like played and then they stopped playing and then they jumped back in. Or at least I had that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah.
After Heart Gold, I think I went and played all the DS Pokemon games that released, like Diamond, Pearl, Sapphire, Ruby, all of those ones.
Fair enough. Rusty's Retirement is obviously a farming game. What is your history with farming games? When did you? Because obviously there's got to be a point where you're like, I'm making a farming game. So how did you get to that point in enjoying farming games or cottagecore games in general?
I've never played a farming game. Still to this day.
Okay.
Other than Rusty's Retirement.
Uh,
Wild.
So I know they exist. I know like how they work, and like I've read like obviously when I landed on Rusty's retirement. Well, first of all, let me like go back a little bit more. So after my first game, which was Haiku the Robot, the same Haiku that appears in Rusty's retirement, um, I was kind of stuck with what to do because making a Metroidvania was just a massive undertaking, especially to do it solo. Like I did all the art, the animations, the coding, and there's just so much content. Like there was like 10 to 15 bosses at the end. It's just so much work. Like each boss needs their own unique animations, attack patterns, all this sort of stuff. And I was like vowed to myself that I'm never going to put myself through this again, that I'm going to try and make something smaller and simpler as my next game. But when I finished the Metroidvania, then I didn't know what to do. So I had this sort of brainwave of I'm just going to make these sort of small prototypes, spend about 2 weeks on an idea because, I had a bunch of ideas that I wanted to try out, spend about 2 weeks on each sort of idea and just test them, just to see if I could actually do some of this stuff, like because my technical capability isn't like fantastic. I'm not like a fantastic coder, so some of the stuff is just simply out of my reach, just from a technical standpoint.
you're not making a 3D
And
Zelda
then
game.
yeah, or like I love strategy games and 4X games as well. So like, but those things are like humongous. I would never be able to do
Mm.
something like that. And yeah, so I just did these prototypes and I made Rusty. And funnily enough, I actually shelved Rusty for like 3 months because I
Hmm.
made it, and most of the prototypes I made, and then I showed them on Twitter, right? I
Hmm.
showed like, hey guys, what do you think of this sort of thing? Just to kind of gauge, interest and stuff like this, because I didn't want to make something that, at the end of the day, nobody wants to play. So I was kind of trying to find this balance of like, okay, I'm going to do these ideas that I want to make and find out if I want to make them, but then also show them to people to see if there's interest. Because I think if there's interest, it also kind of motivates you to make it as well, So
Yeah.
it's like this balance. But for Rusty, I thought, man, this is such a stupid idea. Nobody's going to want to play this. And I just shelved it for like 3 months. But luckily, I had commissioned the sprites for Rusty and they came through. And I was thinking, I should at least put sprites in the game now that they're done, just see what it looks like. And that's when I thought, oh, it's pretty cool, and I should make this into something. But before that, I hadn't played any farming games or anything like that. But then once I kind of had this Rusty idea, and I also put it on Twitter, and people really liked it, then I started like researching more into farming games and stuff.
Hmm.
So have you
But
still not played
interestingly
any?
enough, no, I haven't because I was tempted to play Stardew Valley, but I didn't want to get too influenced by the decisions that were made in that game. Like, I researched enough to know like what's the sort of loop, the core gameplay
Mhm.
loop, and understand like how that works. But I didn't want to like play it and see exactly how it's done because then I feel like it's just going to influence my decision too much. And that kind of happened with my first game that I made, the Metroidvania. Like after playing Hollow Knight, it was wow, like there's so much stuff here that is great, and I just want to add to my game. And then it became a little bit too much like Hollow Knight. So I wanted to try and move away from that and try and do something that's a bit more on my own.
So what was the through line? I guess like were you just kind of throwing things at the wall and making them stick? Because trying to think of like if you're making the comparison to Hollow Knight, like trying to make the comparison of like there's this warrior and they're and they're fighting and they save the world or whatever, and then they just kind of like retire. Like, was
Well,
that kind
yeah,
because
yeah,
like because
yeah,
I'm watching. I have the game up because of course I do, and I'm watching Haiku. Like, just he's just bopping around, he's just
yeah.
helping
It's just
out.
chilling, man. It's just chilling.
But
But
and
at
then
the
I
end of the
looked.
game, he accomplishes what he needs to do.
Okay, I
So
mean,
like,
yeah,
it made sense to transition him to just retire alongside Rusty.
that's such a cute idea. I
And
love
I
that.
thought it was I thought it was like because obviously, when I had this idea of like making this farming game, it's like completely different to a Metroidvania where you hack and slash
Hmm.
bosses and enemies and all sorts of stuff. So I was like, how can I not completely alienate that sort of audience and player base that have built up over the last 2 years or three
Yeah.
years even? And so I was trying to look for like a bridge, and I felt like the bridge was I could at least keep it in the same world because a lot of the story for Haiku is about how nature always prevails.
Hmm.
So I feel like it somewhat ties in with the farming aspect and expanding your farm because on Rusty you have like these sort of debris on all the sides and you have to clear the debris and then like
Hmm.
there's farmland underneath. So I felt like it somewhat related.
So, I mean, I guess you've already mentioned that you're not a coder. What
Well,
is your
I
background?
am sort of now because I've been doing
Okay,
it for
well,
5 years.
before, I mean,
But
so like what was the impetus to start developing games? Like what was your career before or like how did you get into this of game development?
yeah, this is like one of my favorite stories actually.
Oh, cool.
Because I studied architecture, but I didn't do anything with architecture. In fact, I dropped out of architecture, and then I went into marketing in like a sort of startup slash medium-sized company, which was going a bit corporate-y and stuff like this, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know what happened, but one day I just had a really, really, really bad day at work, which we all do.
Hmm.
And I just went home and I thought, there's got to be something else that I can do in my life. And my father likes to joke that I was like touched by God or something, like he's not religious, but that I was touched by some unknown spirit. And they guided me to just Google how to make a video game. And that was it, basically. I just watched one YouTube tutorial and I just didn't stop since then. Like I was just very invested in it. Like I think from playing games in my childhood, maybe the architecture sort of just being creative aspect
Hmm.
ties in as well. So I felt like it was just a lot of fun. And it all started from just a bad day at work. It's really, really, really weird to think back.
That's a very
So I what
productive way to, have a bad day at work. I just go in like grump and go play some games instead or
well,
record a podcast.
I wonder if each like career path has a different version of this because in entomology and in the sciences, like in biological sciences in general, we all have the desire to quit and start either a bookshop, a cafe, or a bakery.
A
Mm.
bakery, yes.
So,
Bakery is
um,
high on my list.
so maybe like in, design and tech and marketing, it's more like, okay, I'm going to develop stuff now.
I don't know.
Um,
Bakery is still pretty high up on my
you
list.
can still do it. I believe in you.
Yeah,
Um,
there's like a joke in the startup world that you try and make enough money so you don't have to work in tech anymore, so you can
yeah.
just live on a
Yeah,
farm.
I know that feeling.
Yep.
Although I'd like to do woodworking. I think that sounds fun to me.
Hmm.
I think it's the desire to create something and do something with your hands. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure.
So I mean, from that background, what about it gave you the idea for this kind of second screen like aspect of Rusty's retirement? I think I can't think of anything else that really does this. Did you have like something that inspired you to have kind of Rusty on the bottom of your screen as you're working, or what was the creation of that?
Yeah, I saw there's a few games out there that don't quite do it the same, but they have this idea of like there's management on the top and then you have like at the bottom where stuff is happening, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
And I kind of looked at the bottom part and thought, that's interesting, but all this stuff on the top is like what if you could like put that in the bottom part as well? So like you could actually do just something else. So you don't I don't know. It was just like
Hmm.
this sort of I felt like there's literally no point of just having a game at the bottom. Like this sounds really harsh, but there's no point of having a game at the bottom and then having all this stuff on top. Like I felt like it was it was like the idea was like half there sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking there must be a way where you can just like push all that top stuff like into the bottom part, and then the game is just exclusively at the bottom. And then you can just do other things at the same time. I mean, like I said, when I made this prototype, I thought it was such a stupid idea that I just didn't touch it for like 3 more months. And then I don't know, I shared it on social media, and it turns out that people were actually quite interested in it.
Mhm.
But to me, it's still a weird idea to just come across. Just be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really innovative, honestly. And like there with for people who are in fields where you're like science and coding and stuff like that, it's easy to like you have all these windows to just like have kind of an idle game going on in the background. It's one of those things where it's like that makes so much sense. Why hasn't this been a thing? Um, and I
Yeah, I
really like,
mean,
yeah, go for it.
for example, in my day-to-day work, if I write a piece of code, I have to wait for the game
Yeah.
engine to recompile, which usually only takes like 10, 15 seconds, but 10, 15 seconds in today's world is so long. So
Hmm.
like I just open my phone, and next thing you know, it's been 5 minutes.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
was only I was only supposed to wait like 10, 15 seconds. So it felt like it was almost combating that sort of issue that I had as well,
So do
which I
you?
assume other people have.
Yeah, well, Cody was telling me the other day that that's exactly what they do. It helps them focus on the things rather than getting pulled into that phone hole, exactly as you described it.
Hmm.
Um, do you play it while you're working on whatever your future stuff is, or even just like updates for Rusties? Are you playing it as well?
I do sometimes, but the thing about making your own game is you play it so much that
Yeah, fair.
you get very tired of it very quickly. So it's weird because this has happened twice now, and both times. So I think it's a thing. Like I'm sure, like first time when it happened, I was like, am I just weird or is this like a thing? But I think it's definitely a thing. It's yeah, you just keep playing it. You know the ins and outs. You know exactly how everything works. There's no discovery. There's no nothing. So that sort of initial period of when
Mm.
you're starting the game and you're super excited about the game is like so important that you get right, because then after that excitement's gone, it's just like a slog to get it finished, basically.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
So you
definitely a
have
thing.
to,
It's
yeah,
it's an interesting. I think it's specific to game development though, because I'm a software developer, so I don't make games, but I make other things. And generally, other than obviously my work, which is doing stuff for other people that I don't care about, but like I got into that through making things to solve my problems, and so the very fact that I make it is so that I can use it, and so it's like you don't end up in that situation where you've made it and then you're like, oh, I'm not going to use it because otherwise you just
Hmm.
wouldn't make it in the first place, right?
yeah, yeah, and it is very satisfying for me, like software development or game development. I think this sort of very quick loop of like, oh, I had this idea in the morning, and then by the afternoon you've got it like implemented. That's like super satisfying in my opinion. So
Hmm.
like those smaller goals are like very nice, and I think they help with the day to day. Like you could wake up in the morning with this idea for an enemy, whip some crude sprites together, and then work on the code, and it's pretty much done by the end of the day. You just got to polish it up a bit, which is super satisfying to go from like nothing to something within
Yeah.
just one day.
Hmm.
Versus, working at my corporate job where it's like you got to submit a task. That task has to be estimated and groomed. Then it has to be put in the sprint. And then, it's like
Hmm.
one task now takes 4 weeks because the sprints are 2 weeks, and, all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff. So it's a big change to go from 4 weeks to like 2 days or maximum like a week.
Yeah. That's the advantage of working on your on your stuff on your own. Because I suspect
Hmm.
game development and the big companies is much more like the
Yeah, yeah,
slow
true,
process,
true. Yeah.
I don't think anyone on Call of Duty is implementing an enemy in one day.
True, true. They're probably going for the same thing of submitting a task, waiting for the sprint,
Yeah.
etc.
Yep, definitely. The other thing that I'd been thinking about is I feel like it's kind of linked to the games that you were talking about was kind of the Wii U in terms of its like second screen type thing. I know that's not exactly the same because that's playing a game across two screens, but it almost feels like the ideas are coming from the same sort of space. Did that factor in at all?
Not really because I never owned a Wii U.
Fair enough.
So I'm just hearing about. I kind of skipped the whole Wii thing, to be honest. I only played like at a friend's house, the Wii bowling, and maybe was it Super Smash Melee? No, that's the
Melee was the GameCube one, I think.
yeah, it was the GameCube one. Yeah, I can't remember what. Yeah, I kind of skipped the whole Wii thing. I don't know. It's just like a phase in my life that just never played the Wii.
Fair enough.
Well,
Fair.
I guess the DS is kind of similar
Yeah,
where it's
maybe
got two
DS. Yeah,
screens. Like the one that has the screen in the bottom and the screen up top, right?
yeah. Yeah,
I
they had like with the stylus where you could
yeah.
touch the thing. Yeah, I mean, I've never thought of it, but maybe somewhere in the back of my mind,
I guess it's
I
just all
was
just
thinking
like
of my DS.
different ways of interacting with games here, right? Like it's not the same thing because one is two screens and one is half a screen or a third, a quarter of a screen or whatever, right? Like it's not the same thing. It just feels like what other ways can we interact with games that isn't just you have a screen and you're playing it like that?
Yeah, and for Rusty, it was very important for me to make sure that it's not like something that needs your constant attention because otherwise it defeats the purpose of being on your screen at the same time. Because if
Mhm.
you only do that, then you might as well just have it full screen and you play it like any other game because that's the only thing you're focusing on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was
Yeah.
like a balance of making sure that you that I had like these rules that everything's super super simplified and there's only literally like two things that you can do. You can only plant seeds or you can build building or you can place
Mhm.
buildings. Like that's it. So
Mhm.
everything was like whittled down to that, and the game would just take care of the rest. Like it's automated. It would, the robots move around and do all the tasks for you, so you don't have to. So then once you're done, or like you've planted your seeds or you've built your buildings and you have no more money and there's nothing else for you to do other than wait, then you go. It kind of pushes you away from the game and back to whatever you were doing.
Mhm.
So the idea was like, if it's on the screen at all times, then it shouldn't be too distracting. It should act as like for that short break that you need, that short moment where you just need a bit of downtime from whatever you're doing. You do something. Somebody compared it to like petting an animal, like your cat or
Mhm.
something. Like you're on your computer, you're getting a bit tired. You look at your pet, you're like, oh, give it a few pets, and then go back. They
Yeah.
compared it to that, and I was like, that's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah.
No, I think for me it's the same as you said, where you're running a task or running a code or something on your computer, and then you have this downtime. And same, I would grab my phone, or if like my brain just kind of shuts off from the task I'm doing on my computer because I have ADHD. If I'm like, ugh, I need like a mental break, I'd like go walk away from my computer, and then suddenly I'm like doing all these dishes and doing like all this stuff and I am not doing my work. And this is great because it keeps me on the screen versus like looking at another screen or walking
Yeah,
away from my
or like
computer
looking at a
entirely.
different tab. Like that's the
Yeah.
one that gets me as well. It's like when I'm waiting for something, I'm like, oh, let me just quickly check Twitter. Nobody ever
Yeah.
quickly checks Twitter. It's like you check it and then you're there for like 5 minutes, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
it was very important to try and keep that sort of balance.
Yeah.
It success for me at least.
I'm happy to hear that. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of the reviews say that, and it makes me very happy as well to read those
Hmm.
sort of reviews.
Yeah. Well, 10,000 of them.
Hmm.
That yeah, it's crazy. Absolutely
Well,
crazy.
and it's funny for not only from the podcast, but like I was anytime I Zoom with like other students and then I share my screen, they're like, "What is going on down there?" And then I explain it and then they're like, "Oh, that's really cool." So, um
So you're where all my sales come from then, huh?
we have definitely the podcast has definitely referred a lot of humans, yes. And then I've mentioned it to other grad students that also have difficulty focusing, but
Amazing.
So what I've noticed in the last few months is there've been a lot of games very similar to the idea of, the popping up on the bottom of your screen idea. We've got there's one coming which is like a life sim. There's a cat cafe one. There's a creature collector one. It feels a little bit like you've essentially created a new genre of games. How does that feel?
Feels crazy, right? Honestly, I don't know what to think. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's cool and all. Like, and I feel like yeah, it's very cool. It's like any indie developer's dream to, like, because there's that expression like what is it? Imitation is a form of I can't remember.
Flattery.
Flattery,
Yeah.
right?
The sincerest form of flattery, I think, is
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. And I completely agree with that sort of expression, because it definitely feels like, and I'm just happy to share all of these games because some of them look great, some of them are like fantastic ideas, and I mean, indie developers are kind of, it's a tough thing. It's not super easy versus, because they're on like limited budgets and stuff like this. So I don't see it as competition. I see it as more just like we should be teaming together to help improve our chances of success, because
Mhm.
otherwise you're trying to compete with big studios that have a lot more resources than you do,
and the
and it's
games cost a lot
impossible.
more, so they're probably, if you're buying indie games, you're probably buying more games, right? Because they generally cost less.
Yeah, but also just publishers exist where they like
Mm,
pump a ton of money into these indie games, and like, so there's a lot of layers to this sort of thing, and
yeah.
I think like, like, you shouldn't view these people as like the enemies, like, oh, they're copying me, this is my idea, this is only mine. It's like, no, lots of people have asked me, are there any other games like this? So I'm going to do my best to try and show them that there are other games coming that are like this if you want more of this type of thing. So I
Mhm.
don't see any harm in that, because if those games do well, then more hopefully, their audience might be looking for similar games, which ends up leading to Rusty, and it creates kind of like this ecosystem of just indie games that are all in a similar style. I don't see any harm in that. Like,
Mhm.
if you like that sort of game, you're probably going to look for more types of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah, you basically get to be the Stardew Valley of this type of game now. Like everyone compares everything to Stardew.
Well, I mean, everybody compares Rusty to Stardew as well. So, I mean,
It's it's
whatever.
different though. I don't know. I think that they're different
I
personally.
agree. I think they're different, but
A
it
lot
is
more
what it is.
automation.
Yeah, on the surface level, I can see how you might make the comparison, but
We just need to come
so
up with a
so
good
good.
name for the genre. I think that's what I'm currently with Rusty Lake, but it doesn't really
Yeah.
describe what it is if you don't know the game.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, what do you call it? Bottom of your screen games,
Yeah.
side of your screen games. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it?
No, you could
Screen.
argue it's an idle game, but it feels so much more than that, right? Because idle games are generally like on your phone and it's something you pop into once every so often, whereas this is obviously designed with a much more not active view of things, but having it there means that you're not having to, like, as you say, context switch as much.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I just got sucked into the game, but so I guess a very important question for me, because I just unlocked a new farm, which I mean I'm gonna run out of farms here soon. So, are there any updates that you have planned, or anything that you're thinking about doing to expand the game in any way?
Yeah, there are. Um, sorry if that's, yeah,
No, that's
No, you're
fine.
fine.
not very helpful. I'm
That's
just trying to process my thoughts right now. There's a lot of things, a lot of ideas.
Hmm.
Um, it's always tricky to, like, to say, oh, this is definitely coming,
Yeah.
unless it's at a stage of development where I'm like, yep, this is definitely in. At the moment, the winter map was what was in, and the
Yep.
new character that came with that was like what I was working out and figuring out if that's going to fit into the game. Now I'm kind of experimenting with conveyor belts and
Ooh.
sort of underground level, which is more of like a factory sort of level,
Rustorio.
basically, but not as complicated because there's a balance between,
Hmm.
you know, keeping the game simple because Rusty is a dead simple game in terms of like, how to play. You just place buildings, plant crops. So it's important for me, and this is why I don't like to promise anything because I'm still,
Yeah.
you know, working this out. Is it's important that the conveyor belts don't become complicated like in Factorio, like where you have to
Hmm.
split things and you have to, you know, combine different pieces and it's it's a lot of brain power and a lot of work to get a good factory running in Factorio. So I don't want that,
Hmm.
So it's like it's very much in the experimentation phase, and it could just be completely scrapped because as much as I try and fit, it could be this cube that I'm trying to fit into like a circular hole or something. So I don't want to
Hmm.
do stuff like that. So yeah, I'm experimenting with that at the moment, but that's not promising anything.
I constantly tell people don't promise things.
And then
Never promise
and
things.
And I
but
constantly promise things on Al's behalf.
Yeah, you do.
but there are definitely things that are coming which I can't talk about too much because they're
Yeah.
actually under NDA, but
Oh,
um,
well,
we're doing like some crossovers with other
Hmm.
games.
Oh,
that's exciting.
exciting.
So there'll be like new maps, and hopefully these crossovers have the characters from those games. So like all of
Hmm.
Rusty's characters get swapped out. So it would be kind of like, I don't know, let's just pick a random game. Just a random game. But let's just say Pokemon.
Mario.
It's never,
Oh,
or
no,
Mario.
Pokemon's great.
Mario, Pokemon, it's never going to happen. But imagine that sort of scenario. Rusty becomes Mario, Haiku's Luigi, you have Peach on the farm, like all this sort of stuff.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of vibe. And then hopefully I would like to add sort of like a interesting game mechanic or challenge to the map. So it feels like it's a little bit of a different playthrough versus just a skin. So then like players who have already played through the majority of the game can still have fun with the new map. And it's not just a skin, there'll be at least some sort of challenge or something that's different on the map.
Hmm. I mean, I'm doing the Flower Meadow map right now, and I really like it because you don't even have to have wells because there's just the little stream going through everything that your water bots can take.
Yeah,
So
that
even
one's
that,
my favorite.
yeah, even that level of just environmental, like using the environment, is really neat.
That
Yeah,
that
so
sort of
hopefully we want to try and do just more of those.
Hmm.
And then, like I said, this underground level is really, really, really tempting because that essentially basically doubles the whole game. Like it would be a fully
Hmm.
fledged like second game, essentially,
Hmm.
just underground.
Well, I feel like you'd have to have like light down there too. There's like another element of making sure that there's lights on the plants that need like sunlight for growth.
Yeah, well, lore wise, the little bees that fly around
Yeah.
that are not
Hmm.
bees, they're actually bulbs
Yeah. Oh, okay.
because the game is supposed to be already underground, sort of thing. Because that's if you play Haiku, then you'll see that everything's underground, sort of thing. But like, it's a loose connection, loose bit of lore. People just think they're
Hmm.
bees, and I had actually called them bulblets.
I do
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
But they just caused so much confusion that I just ended up in the most recent patch, the winter update, I just reverted everything to bees. So it makes me a bit sad, but sometimes you just gotta let go of these things.
but we're still going to
Yeah.
keep it. The bees are bulbs, even if they're called bees. They're
Yeah,
bulbs.
they're like little light bulbs with wings.
I love it.
It's really cute. Yeah.
I,
I don't
just a
know.
quick question on those
Yeah, go for it.
the farm maps. Were you aware that that's something that Stardew does? Because I feel like that's one of the things that I love most about Stardew because you can come in, have a new save, and be like a completely different game because of those changes.
Yeah, I
You were
was
right.
aware.
That's fine.
That's part of like the research that I did without actually playing the game.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just because I don't see any other games doing it. Like no other farming game does
Really?
that thing, and it's a thing that I love so much, and I don't know why other
Hmm.
games don't do it.
Well, I was, planning on doing it, And I was like, okay, I'm gonna just make one small map and see how it feels. And I made the one with all the rivers.
Hmm.
And as soon as I made that, I was just like, this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
I gotta do more of this, you know? Like the river one is my absolute favorite, especially because it becomes more of like a puzzle piece where you have to fit the buildings in between the nooks and crannies of the rivers and stuff. And yeah, I just love that one.
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm finding right now. It's like, oh, I want to build like this specific, like a 4x4, but this area, crop field, but this area isn't big enough for that. So it like makes you change things and use things differently, and it's really fun. Could it be, does it randomize each time or is
It
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 the same?
doesn't. It's the same, but it's one of
Mhm.
those things where I look back on and and I wish that it would be randomized. But when you like, I had like a very specific deadline that I wanted to hit for this
Yeah.
game, and these sort of things they just take so much time to like make sure that they're correct, they're not buggy, they save. Like there's all sorts of stuff that can go wrong, so it's much easier to kind of do something that's fixed and
Yeah.
then potentially later go back and make it randomized, which I would still like to do, but I don't know if it's high on my list. Another thing would be an endless mode as well, I think would be pretty cool. So you can just keep going as long as you want. I think that would
Hmm.
be quite interesting. See how far people can get until the game breaks. But I think
Really stress test it for you.
yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But like these things, they can come later, or they can always come later. But
Mm,
we'll see.
for sure. For sure. Our last question, I feel like you've already answered because it was going to be about is there anything secret? And I feel like your point about the possible crossovers coming is it probably answers that. But I have one other question I want to ask that um I've not played the game a huge amount because I've told the listeners before I work on a client machine so I can't install the game on it. But I've done in the last week or so is I've been putting it on my Steam Deck and just having that sitting next to my
Oh, okay.
computer. Um, so my question is, are we going to get full screen mode anytime?
Oh man, that's such a great question because I recently bought a Steam Deck so I
Oh,
could look into making a full screen mode.
nice, nice. It
Sounds
work.
like
Uh,
I mean, it
you
works
might be
reasonably
invested in
well.
this.
Yeah, it works reasonably well. It's just everything's slightly too small, and so it's like a little bit difficult to tap on the right thing. But and obviously
yeah,
then
but yeah,
installing
I
that.
mean, I would just implement full controller support if
Yeah,
that's the case. That's
yeah.
the reason why I got it because I've made my previous game. I ported it to the Switch myself as well.
Oh,
And so the sort of development and testing on the Switch is way too convoluted for my liking. So I was like, I'll just get a Steam Deck. It's super easy to update the build on Steam, and then it just downloads straight onto the Steam Deck, basically, especially
yeah,
because I have like these developer builds and stuff like that. And I can just play it. So I was like, and it also has touchscreen, and Nintendo is a bit weird. They don't only want to rely on touchscreen, probably because you can dock it and
yeah,
then you can't touch the screen anymore. So, I mean, it makes sense. But with Steam Deck, then you don't have to worry about stuff like that. So I thought, I'm going to buy myself a Steam Deck. I'm going to test out the idea. Like I said, I can't promise anything. I've got to test it first. Because my only concern with these sort of consoles is that there is a lot of downtime. So I don't know if maybe you can tell me if I should speed up the gameplay a little bit more for those Steam Decks, or if I should like lower how long it takes for a crop to grow and these sort of things.
yeah. I mean, I
Because
think I've only
the
done a
other
few
option,
days now, but I feel like it's been working pretty well in terms of things. Like I don't I have it plugged in, obviously, which is
yeah,
obviously I'm going to destroy the battery doing this. However, I'm enjoying it. That's the main thing. And I feel like the screen is staying on kind of like long enough that they finish doing everything, and then I can go and do some more again. So it doesn't feel like it's too slow for what it's trying to do. It feels right to me. I've not slowed it down because I definitely don't want that.
okay, because the other option is like offline progression. So then it becomes a bit more like your mobile games that you were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm not so sure of.
Yeah, I think in an ideal world that would be really nice, but it also feels incredibly complex. And
Yeah.
uh, any time you spend on that obviously takes away from other things that you would perhaps prefer to do.
Yeah, but like if I do it, then I could reuse it for Switch and other consoles and stuff like that. So
Fair.
it's not like,
And mobile.
yeah,
What I really want is an iPad
it's a
version,
balance.
but that is a
I
whole
mean,
other kettle of fish.
yeah, I would love if like you could put it on an iPad or a tablet or a phone, and it also has the split screen functionality on your phone while you're like browsing TikTok or Instagram or something like that would be amazing. But I just don't think I can do that,
We're
especially
trying to
considering that I made it in Unity game engine and there's like a whole SDK for Android that you need to work around, wrap the game around. Yeah,
Mm.
it seems it's just way out of my skill set, to be honest.
we're trying to get people off of social media, so it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all of our questions. One last thing is there anything that you want to tell the listeners about or talk about that we haven't brought up?
I don't know. Other than maybe if you're thinking of starting game development and making games, it's as simple as just going to Google and typing in how to make a video game. Try out a few tutorials. That's how I got started, and then see if it's for you. And if I can do it, I feel like, a lot of other people can do it as well.
Fair enough. What a great way to end. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about your game. Obviously, we'll have links to the game on Steam and stuff like that in our show notes. Is there anywhere in particular that you want people to go to find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram mainly. So if you want to reach out and chat, I'm usually pretty open to talking to people. I try to reply to comments and messages as best as I can. So yeah.
What's the usernames for those?
Mr. Morris Games. Normally you could just type in Rusty's retirement and that's what I put as my name as the profile anyway. So you should be able to just find it by searching for Rusty's retirement.
That's why you're Mr. Rusty.
Exactly. But thank
Awesome.
you so much for having me.
No,
It's
thank
been
you.
great
You're the
talking.
first. You're the first winner of our game of the year who actually responded to me. So,
I'm honored to receive such a award.
prestigious award. Well, I enjoyed that interview. Thank you, Codey, for joining me for that.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Sorry, it sounded like there was more coming there.
Oh.
Just the intonation there. Was it really
No,
fun?
it was really really fun to talk to Jordan and kind of understand like the thinking behind how this game came to be. I still can't believe that he said that thing.
Have you forgotten already what it was?
No, I'm just trying to like make that joke of like
like we've recorded this before. We recorded the interview. Shocking developments in Rusty's retirement.
I actually my brain was like they're gonna hear this before they hear the interview, but that is not how that works.
Not unless they're being very weird with how they're listening to the episode.
Because I was like, I'll say that, and then they'll be like, oh, "What was it? I have to listen." Jeez.
Fantastic. Yeah, I have been thinking. I'm not going to try and pontificate at this point as to what games it is that he can't tell us about, because I think that would be mean to do so. But I have spent the last 4 days thinking about what games it could be that would be big enough to give him an NDA, but not big enough that it's obviously not going to be the massive games. So I'm very intrigued to see what it is.
I don't know if it has to be a big game.
Well,
for an NDA.
I just feel like I'm not meaning like huge games, right? But like, I'm not going to use any names of games because I think that's unnecessary. But like, I just feel like a game built by one individual is not going to be giving out NDAs for things like
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, I don't think he would.
Oh,
it's a lot of work for one person.
Okay. I would think.
I also
that
don't
that
think
would
it'll be
be a
Stardew
thing.
Valley because
No, I don't think it.
I don't think they would have an appropriate character that would be Rusty.
Linus.
No. Because the
Who's trying to
character that would be
retire?
Rusty is your player character, and the whole point of Stardew is you're making your own character, and so any character they put into that would, break an illusion for most people.
Yeah, you're right. What if you
Anyway,
could bring your character into Rusty's retirement?
that would be way too much work than is worth it. But we shall
Fair.
see. Codey, where can people find you on the internet? Not on TikTok. Sorry.
No,
Too soon.
The great thing is I've never been on TikTok.
Okay.
So
you don't
that
care.
is perfectly fine. Yeah.
We're recording
Has
this
that
on the
officially
last
happened?
day before the ban.
Oh,
but
yeah, okay.
it's still not sure whether it's actually going to happen or not.
well, I guess this was technically being a prophesier since it hasn't actually happened yet. But if Elon Musk buys TikTok, the world is doomed because that is something people think might happen.
Yeah.
And I would hate that. But I am not on TikTok. That is not where people can find me. People can find me on the other hellhole, Instagram.
Yeah, that went really great over the last week, didn't it?
It's so hard to be on platforms these days because just by using it, you're aligning yourself with awful opinions. Yeah. So anyway, but I am on Instagram at Hiking Beagle, BE Eagle, and Blue Sky, which has not really thrown up any red flags yet. I'm on that, but it's just my name.
Lots of investors of it are crypto bros, so I suspect something will happen sometime to go badly wrong for it. But yeah, they haven't actively done anything that has been a massive problem. I'm just expecting it to happen at some point.
And it has my favorite, not accessibility, but a setting that you can turn on, which is that it won't let you post an image until you've added an alt text.
That is absolutely accessibility feature.
Cool. Which I am in love with because I would post something and just completely forget. Yeah. And then you can't add it secondarily. So I was like, no, make me do this.
Yeah. I think that is good. I'm because I have that turned on as well. I think I think on one hand, I really wish that was default because it would make everybody do it. But on the other hand, I know that lots of people would end up putting in useless alt text. And so it would make the feature less useful. But yeah, complicated. Just do alt text on your images. It's not hard. Just do a very quick sentence as to what the image is, and it will help people with limited vision. Please and thank you. Or people who this is the other reason why I love alt text. People who don't get the joke. Right? If you're looking at an image and you're like, I don't understand what this has got to do with the tweet, you click on the alt text and people explain the joke for you. Fantastic. Please do that more.
True.
Some people are absolutely fantastic about alt text as well. They'll put in a huge explanation. You're like, I love you. Thank you so much. I posted a picture today of this pseudo scorpion that I just found in a trap that made me so happy. And I was typing in the alt text and I saw that I could put 1,500 words to the alt words,
text.
Not even characters.
Oh, it might be characters.
I think that's probably characters.
You're right. But that's so many.
That's still a lot. Yeah, that's good.
I'm going to write a whole essay with characters. So.
Yeah. All right. I think oh, no, I've not talked about whether you can find me in the podcast. Goodness me, I'm tired. If you want to find me on the internet, you can find me. Search for me. I don't care. I don't do anything interesting on the internet.
That's not a lie. That is a lie.
No, it's not. This podcast is the thing I do that's interesting. There's nothing else I do. If you're listening to this podcast, you found it. Congratulations.
If you and I were not on the internet at all, we wouldn't meet each other.
Right. Okay. But yeah. Okay. Fine. If you're in the Slack, then you'll find I might do some interesting stuff in there. Happy?
That's true. You do some pretty hilarious stuff in the Slack.
No, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I do like to think that I'm funny. If you want to follow the podcast, we're on Tumblr and most of the other social networks, even the hellscapes still. Go to our website, harvestseason.club. There you can send us feedback. That stuff I do read. I will definitely read your feedback sent from the website. You can also find links to everything about the podcast, including our link to our Patreon. That's the most important place. Go to Patreon, support the podcast if you are able to. I really appreciate it. If you're not able to support it monetarily, you can still go on Patreon and get like notifications for it if you want. That's also a possibility. You can be like a free supporter just to show support for the podcast, even if you can't pay. But if you do pay, you can get access to our Slack, our aforementioned Slack, on which hilarious things sometimes happen. Are you going to post the picture of the pseudo scorpion on there?
Yeah. Should I do like a content warning?
I don't know.
I'm trying to think who.
Is that?
I mean, do you think it's scary?
I mean, I don't, but I don't have any sort of phobia that would lead to that. But it's not spider shaped, so I feel like it wouldn't be an issue.
Only look at this image if you've.
You need to stick it in a thread if you're going to do that, right? Don't just post the image.
No, yeah, I'm saying only look at this image if you listen to the what is this January 21st episode.
You could also schedule a post. You can schedule posts on Slack.
No, I'm just gonna do it because then whoever reacts to it
anyway
is a liar.
You can also get access to our bonus podcast episodes as well, of which we have some coming soon. We have the most recent one is what we're most excited for coming this year. That's not farming games, and we'll have other things coming soon. I think that's everything. Goodness, I need to go to bed. Thank you, Codey, again for joining me.
Thank you for listening to my ranting.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And until next time, have a good
harvest. We're the best at that.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
Yeah, I was really happy because I came to that the Game of the Year podcast and I was like, oh, I'm gonna really break the minds by recommending this game. And then someone else recommended it first. And I was like, yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.